Good evening, everyone. I turned it on. Good evening, everyone. I call to order this meeting of the City of Davenport Historic Preservation Commission. Today is Tuesday, April 9th, 2024. Call to order. Would the staff take the roll?
McGivern,
Here.
Franken,
Here.
Kretz excused, Festetti,
Here.
Powers, Miranda,
Here.
and Bierman excused.
I'd like to turn to the Secretary's report. Consideration of the March 12th, 2024 meeting minutes. I will need a motion to approve.
So moved.
Second. Take a vote on that.
All in favor?
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Okay. Under communications from staff, anything to communicate?
Yes, so the city released their dates for Party in the Park this summer. So there's 4 different events that will be taking place throughout the summer. I thought 2 of them seemed applicable to the commission. One would be Thursday, June 27th at Lindsay Park. And then, so Lindsay Park, just located next to the Village of East Davenport, also a local landmark. And then the other applicable park that is close to the downtown and close to other historic districts is Cork Hill Park. So that event is on August 8th. So this is just a good opportunity for the commission to do outreach to the community and to historic property owners that might be attending these events, just to convey some resources and, see a familiar face, hopefully. So if the commission desires to continue this project, we did reach out to Library Special Collections, who we've partnered with. They'd be happy to share a table with us. So the hope would be that if we participate, just having a couple commissioners at each date.
Good. Do we need a discussion on that, Matt, or just?
I wouldn't mind some feedback from the commission on if there's interest in pursuing it, and then I can move forward from there.
Okay. You'd like that this evening as opposed to sometime by phone?
That would be great. I don't need a commitment on what date you can attend, just if there's commitment to participate.
I did the first year, I couldn't do it last year, but I thought it was worth it. So I'd be open to it.
It's about the same. I thought it was a little
Right.
part-time.
I was able to do it last summer and had a terrific time, and I will do it again. So we just need to let you know.
Okay,
for those
perfect.
2.
So I'll reach out and I can reserve a table and we'll share it with the library again. And I'll come back and we can have a little sign-up sheet for which dates commissioners are available to participate in.
Okay.
Is there general agreement on Matt's decision to do Lindsay Park and Cork Hill? Okay, great. Thank you, guys.
Any bike riders in this group? Sunderbrook has some terrific bike trails, but. Oh, yeah. All right. Okay. Anything else?
The city staff is continuing to work with, we have 3 different properties that are looking to redo their retaining walls in front of their homes. So city staff is working with an engineering firm that's designing the plans and then coordinating that with the property owner. So I anticipate that we might see a couple of those coming up, potentially next month, but definitely this summer. So we'll keep that on our radar.
These would be similar to those that came to us last month?
Similar, the walls are shorter in height, but yeah, similar projects.
Okay.
That's all.
Anything else? Anything from the commissioners? Okay. Seeing none, I'd like to move on to old business. Was anything tabled from previous meetings?
No.
In that case, we will move to new business. First item is case COA 24-04. Request to modify the ceiling over the northwest entrance at 301 East 2nd Street. The Davenport Bag and Paper Company building is a locally listed historic landmark in the Davenport Motor Row and Industrial Historic District. Peterson HTC LLC is the petitioner. Matt?
All right, so the Davenport Bag and Paper Company, this structure is built in 1907. by architects Hansen and Harst. It's a unique building in that it's the first fire-resistant high-rise building in Davenport. So it's built out of concrete construction methods. So history of tenants, originally the Davenport Bag and Paper Company. By 1940, it was the Peterson Paper Company. And then in 2019, the building was converted to the Peterson Paper Loft, so it's currently 23 units. So today's application, the issue at hand is that the second floor apartment unit that's located just over the northwest entrance of the site is experiencing icing on the floors during winter months. So this ice buildup is caused by the exposed concrete ceiling that's located below the unit. And then there's the concrete floor in the unit, so there's nothing to prevent that transfer of temperature. So this is a safety concern for the resident as it's a potential slipping hazard. And then it's also resulting in an increase in utility bills due to that frozen or cold floor. So the request before us is to install insulation on the exterior entrance ceiling to reduce that transfer temperature into the unit. So you could see that ceiling right now, it's currently recessed. It's a concrete ceiling, not visible from the street if you were to look at that northwest corner of the building. So the scope of work would be to install pressure-treated lumber to the ceiling, to apply foam board insulation, and then to cover that with fiber cement panel siding and soffit material, and then to paint it this Sherwin-Williams jogging path color to complement the concrete construction and color of the building. So this photo on the right shows an image of the structure from street view. So staff believe that this would be minimally visible and will not detract from the historic character of the building, and also addresses a practical building code issue that's being experienced by the residents. For those reasons, a recommendation is made to improve the certificate of appropriateness. The application was reviewed for conformance with our historic preservation ordinance, and it meets the standard that a reasonable effort shall be made to make minimal number of changes to maintain the property in a good state of repair.
Any questions from the board members? Commission members? I just had one, and this is because of my own ignorance in relation to building materials. Right now, air flows through. Now, admittedly, it causes cold to go to the floor. If insulation is added to that, is this going to have any unintended consequences of trapping air and potentially moisture for the upper floors, causing damage to the concrete?
Not that I'm aware of. We did discuss this with our building department,
Okay,
because a question that I originally had was, can't you insulate the inside of the unit versus the outside of the building? Their response was that if you insulate the interior of the unit, you'd have to raise the grade of that floor, which would be a larger burden to the tenant and to the property owner. So this was identified as the preferred method. And the building department thought that this was a feasible approach to address this issue.
okay. Is there anyone here to speak on behalf of Peterson, please? If you'd step forward to the podium so that we can pick you up. Name
Sure.
and your relationship to this?
Yeah, Tom Peel, one of the developers for Y&J Properties.
Okay.
And like Matt said, it's pretty self-explanatory. I mean, it does recess, so you won't see that up there too much or at all unless you go under there. But we did try to do baseboard heat in there to stop that problem, and it didn't work. Still iced up, pretty good.
Okay. Very good. Turn it into cold storage, perhaps?
Yeah, if you get the
No.
right tenant in there,
No,
I
no.
suppose, yeah.
Okay.
That's good.
Any other
Commissioners have any
questions?
questions?
I'm good.
Everyone's, I think we're all good. Thank you.
Thank you.
Matt, can we have a call for the vote?
We need a motion.
Excuse me, we need a motion for this.
I'll make a motion that we accept the
petition, as staff recommended.
I second it. Want something to get over there.
You got
I
it.
hear you.
All right, I'll put Miranda down for the second.
Okay.
Okay. Franken,
Yes.
Estetti,
Yes.
Powers,
Yes.
Miranda,
Yes.
McGivern.
Yes.
The motion passes. Thank you. Thank you. We now move on to the second item. This is case COA 24-04. Request to modify, turn the page. COA 2405, request to reconstruct an exterior staircase at 1607 West 12th Street. Upham Hall is a contributing structure in the Marycrest College Local Landmark Historic District. Door Creek Construction of Illinois LLC is the petitioner. Matt?
Okay, so Upham Hall is part of the Marycrest campus. It was built in 1939 for a cost of $165,000. The architectural style is known as Collegiate Gothic. So its original use was actually multi-purpose, in that it was administrative offices, classrooms, temporary dormitory at one point, chapel. It has a 300-seat auditorium and a gymnasium. So it's located just to the west of Clay Street on campus. So the issue at hand is this structure used to have a staircase on the west elevation. So that photo on the left, outlined in red, is the location of the subject area. So the original construction, it had concrete steps and a brick vestibule that covered the basement entryway. At some point in time, that brick vestibule was demolished. However, the staircase, which is concrete, was left in place. And they actually built the deck around the concrete steps. So the scope of work is to reconstruct the exterior staircase, which would entail removing the deteriorated concrete stairs, rebuilding the staircase with new pressure-treated wood. So this project addresses a code enforcement violation that was noted by city staff. And a structural engineer report was actually performed on the outside of this building. And this is one of the items to note in that report to be corrected for safety. So city staff reviewed this project with the assumption that this was the current condition of the exterior staircase, that being that the concrete steps were still intact with the deck built around it. So that photo on the right shows some of the cracking on the underside of the staircase. However, it was brought to our attention on Monday, so yesterday after the packet went out, that this work had already been completed. So that's before the commission has had the opportunity to review and before a building permit has been issued. So the building department is notifying the applicant, who have been notified before this meeting, that a structural engineer sign-off is going to be required on the integrity of the new deck. The building permit fee will be doubled, as is standard with projects that take place before permits received. A licensed contractor must apply for the permit, and then an inspection is required to repair any structural or building code deficiencies with this proposed deck. So just to be clear, this isn't standard procedure in how business is supposed to be conducted within the city. However, this is our situation that we're in. So city staff is reviewing this under the assumption that the concrete steps were in place and that it still is appropriate and that those steps themselves don't maintain the historic value that they did when that whole brick vestibule was off that west entrance. So for those reasons, staff is recommending approval of the certificate of appropriateness. However, we are recommending a condition that wasn't included in the packet, And that condition being that the exterior staircase comply with building code requirements and the final design be reviewed and approved by city staff, namely the building department.
Okay. Thank you, Matt. Do any commission members have questions for staff? I guess, oh, go ahead, Bob.
So, this is really atypical that a petitioner would go and do the work beforehand. Now, reading through the packet, I understand that this is an outcome from a city inspection that was done at the request of the city department for engineering. I'm assuming this was some of the repercussions of what happened downtown in terms of looking at other buildings. I'm assuming.
So my understanding is that was a result of complaints from the tenants.
Okay.
And so whenever there's a complaint associated with the tenant, they'll go out and do an inspection. Whenever there's question on whether something has integrity, it has, especially in the last year, has been code enforcement's request that a structural report be conducted on the property.
I guess my point is there was something that required the inspection to be done, and owners, understandably, being in real estate and talking to other investors and owners of properties, want to quickly address any kind of conditional issues as quickly as possible, especially with the city involved. And I'm not giving them an out or an excuse, but I can understand the environment that they were in to get this done quickly. My only concern is going through the property today, driving around, is you can tell there's been a lot of repairs. And there's going to be future needs of the property. And I'm not quite sure they understand the complexities they're involved with.
Yep.
And I would like your feedback on that.
Okay, there's a couple factors involved. So public safety is important, and we wouldn't delay something that was a hazard. So there is a process to go through if something needs to be remedied before it could get to the commission. That takes the building official and the fire marshal to sign off on something being a public hazard. Under the code, they would be able to address specifically what they need to satisfy the public hazard component of it. And then whatever else needed to be done would go through the commission. So stabilize, basically make safe, then come to the commission. Normally, you see that more for structural fires or things along those lines. Then Matt notifies you that the building was beyond repair and demolished as an emergency. So it can be used in other circumstances if there is some kind of public hazard associated with it. Generally speaking, yes, and it has been communicated to the owners, the code enforcement officer involved has let them know that there are special circumstances that have come into play with this building, with the whole campus, because it is a local landmark, and that there are additional steps that need to be taken as part of that to ensure that they are appropriately done and historically sensitive. So we are in communication with them and we're making that clear to them.
Does staff believe that ownership understands?
Yes.
So there's two ownership groups of the campus, and so it's been communicated to both of them now.
Okay.
Anyone else? As Bob did, I also took a walk around the building, and I understand that what we are voting on tonight is very narrow. The existing masonry stairs were a problem, and the petitioners are asking to remove them for safety purposes based on code and replace them with an appropriate stairway that will be safe, but also would be somewhat compatible with the building. Now, we're saying in the packet that because this is on the west side as opposed to the north or south side, we are less concerned about the historical appropriateness. Is that correct?
Generally, yes, that's true. So you have primary facades where that they're slightly, you have a little bit more latitude to more latitude in terms of what changes are made depending on the primary facades. So, yeah, I think that's what that comment generally means.
Yeah, well, I think in this situation, you had a wood deck and they're replacing with a wood deck. It would have been different had the full brick vestibule
Yeah.
been there and the request was to demolish that and build a wood deck.
Yeah.
So that's the scope of which staff reviewed
Yeah.
Right.
this
We're
project.
not asking them to rebuild the
The-
brick
Yes.
Correct.
vestibule. Having said that, the building itself has multiple entrances, and there is an entrance on the east side of the building that goes into the auditorium area, which has some rather serious deterioration of the brick. I would feel very uncomfortable if the owners decided to replace the masonry and brick steps there with something like this. And you're telling me that that isn't going to happen.
So
No,
we're not saying that. We're saying, and given the situation of what the scope of this project is, the removal of the concrete steps specifically was a fairly minor change in the grand scheme of things. We would look at the other facade as a separate project. And I fully understand what you're saying
Okay.
regarding, I don't think the situation would necessarily be the same on the other side of the building.
Okay. Is there someone here from? Would you like to come forward, please? If you could introduce yourself
Yes.
and your relationship to the project?
My name is Andrew Marshall. I'm the Senior Oversight Project Manager for Door Creek Construction. I send Kevin's apologies, the owner, because he was supposed to be here but got held up in Arkansas due to weather and a flight, trying to get back. Obviously, some of you guys, I've actually met most of you because I'm the guy that handled the call theater through that whole process. So I'm extremely aware of historical and the significance of trying to keep things proper and to put things in the right order and do it in the right order. And obviously, this was not done in the right order. I will say the overall, what was done was correct in the sense of, according to the city and what they had to deal with from the standpoint of a safety issue. And responding to the complaint of apparently a tenant. We were not supposed to go in there and do what was done until after we had met with you guys, so you have our most sincere apologies for doing that. That is not the way we handle things, just not. With that being said, what went back here was in kind to what had been there before, as far as an actual usable, staircase and deck, with some improvements for safety purposes and some additional bracing, safety clips, things along those lines to safeguard public and tenant from there being any issue. We have only addressed the things that the city came through and said, hey, and there's a problem with this, there's a problem with that, fix this, fix that. I'm aware of some of the same things you guys walked around and looked at because I have an eye for it myself and realize there's maybe some tuck point issues and some things along those lines that need to be taken care of to stop there from being any additional erosion of the brick structure in places. Those things weren't pointed out by the city, so therefore we didn't have any real stance to move on those issues, and certainly nothing that the ownership directed us to deal with. So we just dealt with what was actually brought to us by the city, is what we had to deal with, and obviously here with you guys as well on this front. If things are to be dealt with on that, I'm sure that they will. I just think it wasn't something that was brought to their attention as an issue. Other than our sincerest apologies that we got the cart before the horse, and I assure you it was truly that. We had a subcontractor that just went cowboy on us a little bit and, went in there and did some things that he shouldn't have done ahead of time. And, like I say again, apologize for that. That was not our intention.
Commissioners?
Not for the gentleman.
I do have a question.
Yes, sir, absolutely.
And I hate to keep picking at this
No,
like
I
a
understand.
sore. When the stairs hit the ground, and unfortunately Matt's photograph doesn't show it real, it looks like there's some instability around there.
Okay,
There's,
do you mind if I approach?
Please,
I can
please, yeah.
kind of, because I know what you're talking about.
yeah,
So if you look, if you were able to see this right here, this area, it actually drops down a couple feet, I'm gonna say, would you agree?
yeah,
I think. There is a piece of concrete that is lifted and tilted.
right.
And it's lifted, and there's probably about 6 inches showing on this one side. We did not touch that because it was not on the city write-up. It was not part of what they identified us to deal with. So is it in line of someone's path, you know, as far as where they're walking? No. Do you still have the, typical, clearance that's called for at the stairway? Yes. Is that something that, I mean, I agree with you. It's probably something that needs to be addressed. I got no problem addressing it.
You could mention it to the owners.
I can,
that-
and I will,
Okay.
and I already have, and to be honest with you, I already have.
Okay,
And so I would say that something's gonna be done about that, just from a safety standpoint.
well, staying on the safety side.
Yes, sir.
One of the things I noticed, you can see the stairs very clearly here. Nice job, Matt, on the photograph. Wood, especially treated lumber, it seems like whenever it's wet, it's potentially slippery. Is there any possibility of adding some sort of
Grip,
grit strips or something
Grip
that
on there?
would give people, is that,
that's easily done,
I mean,
easily
that's not
done.
part of historic preservation, I understand.
No,
but
I mean,
it just-
that's a very easy addition to something. It can go down on there. It can be, several different things can be put on in a painted form. It could be put on in maybe something that's more from not changing the structure and that can be removed. I understand from the historical standpoint of leaving things at a point that can be removed without changing the structure, but that also can be done. You know, kind of like your other issue with the foam going into the roof up there. There's a lot, anyway, I see things like that, my mind starts going through because I've dealt with so much of it about not changing the structure, so. but-
Unintended consequences.
Yes,
That's what
sir.
it comes down to.
Yes, sir.
Okay.
There's always those.
Yeah, I did want to reiterate that because the plans were not approved by building, that there's possible changes that will happen in the future. That's why Matt added in the condition about, with building approval. And then, so that doesn't have to come back to you for something that's more of a building code issue, city staff would work with the building staff to ensure that that would happen. So it's possible, because this was constructed, the building plans had not been approved, there's a possibility Rise and Run are not correct. There's some things along those lines that are still questionable that are out there.
I'll tell you that I did check the rise over run on the steps and the measurements and everything along that lines. And everything's in line with how it should be from a standpoint of safety purposes, but there again, I'm also not an engineer with that stamp. So until we get, and I'm the actually one that went and took all the pictures and the measurements, checked the core depth on the concrete, the whole bit, to send that over to the engineer for him to be able to say, okay, where your posts are coming down here. Of course, this anchors in cantilevers into where it was in the wall. That's stable. But where you come down here on your post, his only concern was concrete depth, which whenever I did a core on it, we were at 6 inches, which for what you have up there in weight and everything is more than substantial enough to handle what the load is. So that being, that was his only real question to it. Took pictures of all of his anchors. I took pictures of all the strapping, everything else that went with it. Hopefully when he gets his design, when he puts it all back together, puts it into his system, also the type of anchors that were used, he'll be able to come back and give us a big thumbs up that we probably over-engineered it. But being that said, hopefully, you know, we got no issues. And I think Kevin's biggest problem is he didn't want to step on y'all's toes about this whole thing and that it got ahead of things. I think that was, on our end, that's a little embarrassing for the mere fact that we've done as much historical work as we've done and that to happen on something as simple as that.
Yep,
So apologies again.
very good. Robert?
When I looked at it, the one thing I did notice, the original construction was the brick vestibule, which has been removed. And when you stand from the parking lot, the staircase and everything really stands out because it's new and wood and everything. But I noticed you stained the posts that blend well with the masonry behind it. And with that spirit, I'm wondering if that stairwell and the staircase was stained as well, the wood, if it would blend better as the original vestibule did. And that it would, the appearance-wise would be more
Yeah.
appealing.
I can explain a little bit and then I'll let you
No,
respond. So those are original posts. So they reconstructed the stairs and deck over the posts. That's why you see a difference in color.
Okay.
So, and then they reused the railing, correct?
spindle.
The
metal
spindles,
railing?
the spindle part of the,
Yes, the spindles.
so there's a mismatch of new and older wood, so that's why you're seeing the different colors associated with it. To your point, though, I mean, staining could help make it stand out less.
No problem, that's easy done.
I wouldn't mind, if that's up to the commission, but adding that as a condition, because stain it to blend it, and I don't know if to get into what color, I mean, to blend it in there, I think, because I noticed they were painting another porch this afternoon, when I was over there, and it looked nice, they were doing a nice job, and this just kind of starks out,
Understand?
and it doesn't fit in, and it looks it almost looks institutionalized in a bad way, you know?
We can, we can actually, we can actually use a gel stain on that to probably, to get it to more of a red look, like what's there, or what I call kind of a red cedar look. That should be a pretty easy, thing to accomplish if that's what you guys, see fit doing.
Typically, there is a small delay when you do that, because you need the wood to dry out a little bit before you apply a stain, so there would be a time frame.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yep.
Yeah,
Yeah, I mean, I personally, like you were saying, I would let it sit a full year, before you actually went over there and stained it. That way you do let it dry out and you get.
As long as they make the condition, then.
I have a question about.
Yes, ma'am.
Below the stairs, is that a door that's black?
Underneath?
Yes.
Yeah, well, yeah, to my knowledge, I don't know anything about the door. I'm thinking that was already there. That was something that was done, more, in a more, obviously more modern time. We didn't have anything to do with, with that part of it.
Having said that, I think if we all spoke about it, what color are we really looking to achieve? You're talking about staining it. Are you looking to match the yellow around the top door?
Oh, blend the wood, the exposed wood, yeah, just to
Yeah.
blend it in, they
Yeah,
can stain that.
That's what I would say, yeah.
I mean, your door that's up top obviously is weathered. That's your character anyway, right? So you really don't want to do that one. As far as down below, that's what they call an oil rub bronze, aluminum, I think your take on the blending with the brick color is probably, if I had to give an opinion, that's what it would be.
I think that makes sense. I mean, if you think of the overall what used to be there, it was brick. If you can kind of make it blend in a little bit with the brick color, that seems to make sense.
But, you know, if there needs to be something, you know, within a certain amount of time, let it dry out, and then, we can do a test area on it, and you could look at it and go, yep, that's the color we want. Or
Well,
try again.
it seems that even matching the post would almost be enough. Because the idea is, right now, of course, it's brand new, it really stands out, it's kind of glaring. It is frankly nothing like the collegiate Gothic architecture of the rest of the building. So I think adding that to, would we add that to the motion then?
I'll do that. I'll make it
You'll make that?
when everyone's done.
Okay. Any other questions for Andrew?
I promise you we'll do it right.
And I think we need to bring this to, could I have a motion?
Well, I got a question for staff.
Go ahead.
I'm good, thank you. Driving through the campus area again, my only concern, as you can see, future issues coming up with tuck pointing, brick mortar that will be replaced. The staff, and I know we have the maintenance operation here, and that's great, I appreciate that. But does staff really believe ownership has a solid understanding of the responsibilities that they've inherited on the purchase of this property and what they have to do in the future?
We will ensure they do. I actually wrote a note saying we need to sit down with the ownership
I was
groups.
just wondering if a work
Yeah.
session would be required, could we put a work session condition requirement on this with ownership in the next 12 months?
I don't see why you couldn't. If you want like a kind of a overview of where they're at and
Yeah.
what their overall plans are, is that what you're
Yeah.
kind of
So
looking
if they
for?
kind of made a mistake here, so we can use the opportunity, because I don't believe the commission's a police force, you know? I think we're a source of direction, and I think a better understanding for this commission and the future kind of commissions, because there are going to be other improvements that they're going to have to do to this property, there's no doubt about it, you know? I think a healthy relationship is one that, you know, we continue to grow on, and there's a lot of needs on this property in the next 20 years. I think we need to make sure we have a good relationship, and I'm not sure with this, that it happens like this, that we don't want this to happen again.
I will tell you that the current new ownership on that has reached out to us about looking to make some improvements to things that they feel like need to be improved. I don't know if that makes you feel any better, but I know that they're aware to a large degree that there are things that.
So would that be an appropriate condition to put on there?
I think do two separate motions. So do one for the certificate occupancy, and then you can do a motion to set.
And I don't want to put my will over the commission's, it's an idea.
Or I don't know if you necessarily need to vote on the work session. We can just work with them to do that.
Schedule.
I don't know if you need to vote on it.
Anything else? Need a motion for approval or?
Okay, I will make a motion to approve staff's recommendation with the amendment that the staircase be stained to blend with an appropriate color to the brick.
Second, please.
Second.
Moved and seconded. Roll call, please.
Miranda,
Yes.
McGivern,
Yes.
Franken,
Yes.
Hestetti,
Yes.
Powers.
Yes.
Thank you very much, Andrew.
Oh,
Appreciate your
Guys,
time
thank
tonight.
you, and once again, I apologize for the faux pas.
Well, let's go forward with bigger and better things.
We'll do better. Thanks, guys.
Thank you. I think that takes us to other business. Oh, I'm sorry, Bob.
Michael, I just want clarification for staff, because that's just not Bob's will or anything. I mean, I do really think it's important that we do have, like, I kind of thought carrot and stick, keep them on the hook for it, but I understand process-wise, it'd probably be best to request it, but I really think we need to get them in front of us. Ownership group,
I think we can make that happen.
thank you.
I will take it directly to my director.
I would say also that we've always wanted, all of us have always wanted this to be an informational group, a reach out group to the community. So I see this as a perfect place to do that.
Yeah, so just for your reference, so what I wrote down as my note is work session to bring ownership groups to foster a good relationship and educate owners on HPC requirements.
Great. Thank you, Nora. Any other business from the commission, from staff?
I have none. The city did change our software for our agenda management. So when you opened up the packet over the weekend, you probably noticed it looks a little different than what you're used to. So if anyone wants to stick around, I can kind of just show you on the PowerPoint.
Yeah, and then if you are
Just how
running into
that
any
works.
issues with it, please let us know, because it's new. This is the first month we're doing it, so we want to hear from you if you're having any issues, so.
I didn't really have an issue. I just noticed that there, or maybe I didn't find it, just the outline of the meeting.
Oh, sure. We can go over it after the meeting. That way we're all on the same page. And it might be different by device, because we didn't try it with like iPads and things like that, so, yeah.
I've already expressed to Matt that I'm old. So change is difficult to deal with, but you know, it'll be fine once we
Yeah.
get it all
Yeah.
Yeah,
down.
I agree with you, and if we didn't have to, we wouldn't.
Oh, that's good to hear. That's good to hear. Okay. Any other business? Open forum for comment. I see we have a visitor. Like to step forward and please introduce yourself to the commission.
My name is Genevieve Rafferty. I was struck by two words, unintended circumstances. I appreciate the importance of historic landmarks being taken care of. However, in Davenport, I think we have a breakdown between the commission. And by the way, it's wonderful to meet all of you. I'm encouraged and I'm uplifted. And you, young man, okay? I do. I feel much, much better right now. So thank you. Although you may regret that I have this energy that you've given me. Ironically, today I found out something about a building in Davenport. And I believe it's 311 West 3rd. Is anyone familiar with that?
That's just beyond, is that just beyond Brown Street?
Well, I put you on the spot and myself somewhat. Okay, so we're in this together.
Okay.
So if it was 324, the Davenport Apartments, right? It's not too far from where we're standing right now.
Okay.
That's home to many people. I just found out,
Across the street from the courthouse.
Yes,
Yes, it's now empty, isn't it?
no. Okay, and here we go. I live up at Harrison Loss, right on the hill, the crest of the hill. We have two new tenants who have come from that property. That property is now owned by Andrew Wall, who owned the property at 324, where 3 people smothered to death in asbestos cloud poisoning, and 1 young lady had her leg amputated. So this man is still doing business in Davenport. The electrical outlets are causing fires like in coffee makers. The fire stairs doors are chain locked. The hallway lights are dead. 2 evicted for requesting maintenance. Not complaining. It's not a matter of complaining. You're paying rent. You're requesting maintenance. They were given eviction notices. They moved out 15 days before the eviction date. And as of today, the first woman who moved into Harrison Loft, she moved in February of this year. She had lived down there for years. Today, she received a certified letter from the city and from Wall, who refused to return her $1,000 deposit. And they want $8,000 for new carpeting, and she's lived there 7 years. And we all know there's a limitation, right? I mean, usage, you live there, you're not gonna redo the whole place for the owner. It doesn't work that way, I don't think, correct me if I'm wrong. I'm confused as to why Andrew Wall is still in business in Davenport. Are we just waiting for that building to go up in flames? I am just shocked and outraged. This would be one of those circumstances, I guess. I'm Irish and I can't believe I'm at a loss for words. If you call for maintenance, you are harassed, you are given an eviction notice. She moved in with us in February, and just today, ironically, and perhaps maybe the luck of the Irish, she got a notice saying she owed them $9,000. $1,000 for her deposit that she didn't get back, and $8,000 to rehab the apartment she lived in for years. And again, I will repeat, and this is my biggest concern. The electrical outlets are misfiring, that would be the correct term, and they're starting things on fire. And when people call the city, they're earmarked for eviction, they're complainers, bad news. And I can tell you people don't know this, and my heart's breaking, because you're about history, preserving history. And my mother went to she went to Mary Crescent and to St. Ambrose. I stand here for her today, really. She would be outraged. She wouldn't want to deal with my mother. The fact that this man is still in business and he's demanding money from these people. Now, we know if you live down there, you don't have a lot of money. It's a given. That's why I live down there. For this man to have the audacity to haunt this woman and demand $9,000 from her. What, for his pool maintenance? I don't know. I am just shocked. But as I say, the priority here certainly is historic, that we should be protecting people over buildings. We can actually do both. We are capable of doing both. But I think there's a huge breakdown of communication between you nice folks, you good folks trying to do a good job, and I can tell, and the city. You call the city for any kind of maintenance, it got a little bit better after those 3 people died. Then it just went back to same old, same old. Business as usual. And I'm afraid someone's going to die. And I will not have that on my soul, because I still have a soul. So I came down here tonight to let you know that. All right? It's one thing to protect historic sites, and to keep them up to par. Very important. I'm 73 years old, and yes, I totally agree with that. And my aunt and uncle had that where the Central High School Performing Arts building is. They used to have a mansion up there. My uncle, Tom Kennedy, was the executive for Hershey Candy. And he was the first one who broke the line. He married a German woman. And they pretty much owned all that. So I don't know whether I'm feeling like I owe a little bit of coming back downtown and, but we can't have any more people dying. And that's what I see happening here. The city's dropped the ball. And that's putting it kindly, okay? That's putting it nicely. That's putting it humanely. 3 people died, and a young woman had to endure having her leg amputated amidst that rubble. And it's almost a year today that happened. And I would also like to say, as long as we're talking about history, I think that space should remain a green space of reflection. I don't think anything should be built on it. I don't think there should be any commerce. I think it should just be a place across from the library of reflection. 3 people died there, and a 25-year-old woman lost her leg. It's just unconscionable. What are we doing here? What happened to Heartland? I grew up here. I left in 1969. What are we doing here? This isn't the Heartland anymore. This isn't the Heartland. It's all about the money. It's all about the money. Oh, where'd you go? Oh, there you are. Yeah, it's all about the money. It's all about the money. And I'm not having it on my watch. I'm sorry. Maybe, you know, as I said, it's a pleasure to meet all of you. I know you don't know me. I know you don't know the history. But I'm just telling you right now, if we want to preserve something, let's begin with life. Okay? And on that note, I will see you tomorrow night. Thank you very much for your time. I appreciate it.
Thank you, Ms. Rafferty.
Yes.
Appreciate your comments. Commissioners, comments? Staff?
I move to adjourn.
Need a second?
I'll second that.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye.